I am a teenager.
I am a teenager.
I am a teenager.
I have angst.
I'm screwed up.
I'm a complete mess.
I am disordered.
I am disordered.
I am disordered.
Look up the word disordered in a dictionary and some rather pejorative words will appear.
Chaotic.
Scattered.
Unruly.
Lacking orderly continuity.
Morally reprehensible.
Professionals with advanced degrees in psychology and education and medicine have told us we are
Disordered.
Depressed.
disordered,
Anxious.
Disordered.
obsessive and compulsive,
Disordered.
Defiant.
disordered,
Impulsive and distracted.
Disordered.
perverted,
Disordered.
A sinner.
disordered,
Angry.
Disordered.
selfish,
Disordered.
Sick.
disordered,
Mentally ill.
Disordered.
vain,
Disordered.
Loud.
A
disordered,
pain in the ass.
Without order.
not orderly.
Disordered.
There do exist real mental disorders and emotional and behavioral problems that are part of our human existence.
Some of us are born with or can develop a variety of disabilities and syndromes and disorders.
It is important for us to acknowledge and affirm the presence of these disorders in our lives.
Having an awareness of our mental disorders is often a powerful first step in managing and treating whatever emotional distress we may be experiencing.
But being labeled with a disorder can be discouraging. People label us with disorders based on how we read.
How much energy we have or don't have.
Or how weird or different we are from what society considers to be normal.
And this labeling can be discouraging.
Labels suck.
Labels suck because all too often they can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Once we're labeled with a disorder, we sometimes begin to play into those behaviors that are part of the disorder. The more people expect us to fail, the more likely we will be to fail.
The more people tell us we're sick and helpless, the longer it will take for us to get better.
The more people view us as disordered, the more we will view ourselves as disordered.
And that sucks.
It's kind of like an actor getting into character. The actor is given a role and then told by the script and the director how they are supposed to act and behave.
This is the script from which many of us are creating our disordered identities. The DSM, which stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's a list of diagnoses categorizing different human behaviors a group of psychiatrists deemed to be disordered. It provides for us the lines to our script for when we are talking about our disorders and ourselves.
If we are the actors and the DSM is our script, the psychologists, psychiatrists, and therapists who work with us could be seen, for better or worse, or as our directors.
Hello, Mrs. Strovsky. I am Dr. Sunny Strokes, psychiatric consultant. After reviewing your MMPI-2, CPI, MRI, CSI, and MCMI-2, I have discovered that you have ADD, OCD, ADHD, and ED, NBC, GAD, MBD, and BPD. And you listen to NPR, so you must be a member of the DNC. Therefore, I think I will put you on some SSRIs ASAP because I don't want you to end up MIA in the USA.
Okay.
Of course, Dr. Sunny Stroke isn't representative of all psychiatrists and therapists. There are some great ones out there. Some therapists take the time to explain things to us in our language, using words we can actually internalize and view as helpful. Others are more interested in vomiting up a bloated recipe for a very psychological alphabet soup.
And being the ever-evolving, ever-discovering, ever-experimenting adolescents that we are, we often take the director's counsel and behave as he or she tells us to.
Who was the Greek philosopher who said, "The mask an actor wears is likely to become his face"?
Plato.
Plato said the mask an actor wears is likely to become his face. Putting this a different way, could the label a teenager wears likely become her identity? I don't know.
If we are in fact disordered, and if the labels put on us by others are actually genuine mental illnesses and not just shallow labels, some of us wonder, how are we to view ourselves?
Are we screwed up?
Do we still have worth?
If we are disordered, do we still get to be people?
Meet Misha, 16 years old. She's downtown outside the Republican National Convention with her friends protesting.
Oh yeah? You sassy little bourgeois mother.
See, she has what my health teacher calls angry, angsty teenage angst.
Oh, that was not a smart move. Come on down here and we'll settle this like men.
I call it passion.
Bitch.
Others might call her disordered.
So we're on our way to the convention, right? Taking the bus to downtown St. Paul. The three of us get on, right, and pay our fare. 3 teenagers, mind you. And the lady next to me moved away the second we sat down. Why'd she do that? I asked my friend Tara. Because, Misha, she says, adults don't like teenagers. And then my friend Zach piped in and told me that I smelled, and that's why the lady moved away. But then I remembered this Ani DeFranco song where she says, every time I say something they find hard to hear, they chalk it up to my anger and never to their own fear. Now what I think is that those adults, they're afraid of us. So we got downtown, right? The Republican National Convention. I mean, it's not that I'm a Democrat or anything, and I'm definitely not a Republican. I just question the whole political system, the two-party system, corruption, greed, and lies. And 9/11? Don't get me started. So the other day, my mom was driving me to this guitar lesson, and I would have driven myself, but she needed the car to get groceries. I like animals, and I can't stand roadkill. And I saw this squirrel just lying in the middle of the road. And I said, stop, Mom, stop. But did she stop? No. Did she have faith in me enough to hear the words stop and press her foot on the brakes? No. What, honey? Was her response. Us teenagers, we've been rendered meaningless in our society. Adults have made us out to be stupid, hostile, and inferior. I think I even heard my grandpa pontificating once about how the recent hurricanes and economic crisis was somehow the fault of teenagers. I can't be sure, though, because he didn't have his teeth in. But teenagers get blamed for everything. I mean, something breaks in the living room or in the basement or at school, and there is no way it could have been anyone but the teenagers. Children are the last American group against which you can legally discriminate. We get hit, nobody cares. We get screamed at all the time, and nobody says anything. Nobody blinks. We're powerless in many ways, and we have no voice. Yet, some of us refuse to be quiet. And I'm not going to try to be like you adults either, because, well, that's not who I am. I'm 16 years old, I'm a teenager, and I'm proud. I embrace my youth, and I am enjoying myself. You know, teenage life is actually pretty great once you get past all the adults telling you what to do and who you are. I think you adults recognize how much fun the teenage years are. And you're jealous.
Dr. Sunnystroke has been hired by Misha's parents to help fix some of her issues. Her parents are becoming very concerned with Misha disobeying their rules. For instance, Misha refuses to attend church services at her parents' church because they won't allow gay people to marry.
I mean, gay people pay taxes and can die for their country, but they can't marry? Shit.
She refuses to eat the meat her mother prepares for dinner.
It's murder.
And Misha is often seen yelling at her parents.
How come they can yell at me all they want, but when I yell at them, I have to go see a shrink?
Here is Misha's diagnostic report from Dr. Sunnystroke.
I have diagnosed Misha with a mental illness called ODD, more precisely, oppositional defiant disorder, which is characterized by a persistent pattern of arguing, angry and/or disruptive behaviors towards parents and other authority figures.
Dr. Sunnystroke, I know Misha is annoying, but that doesn't make her mentally ill.
Yeah, I might be annoying, but that doesn't make me mentally ill.
Some more specific symptoms of oppositional defiant disorder include argumentativeness with adults, refusal to comply with adult requests or rules, an annoyance of other people, anger, resentment, and spite.
Okay, so I know there are mental illnesses out there and emotional and cognitive problems, but that doesn't mean mental illnesses are all bad, right? I mean, aren't we all oppositional in some way or another? Tell me there isn't something at least kind of positive in having a mental illness. Or are those of us with diagnoses just completely and royally screwed?
Nobody thinks like I do.
What?
Nobody thinks like I do.
Meet Timothy.
Not one other person in the world.
Timothy has ADHD. That stands
for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder.
I learned in my psychology class that Timothy's disorder is generally characterized by impulsivity, such as jumping from one activity to another, acting before thinking of consequences, and
disorganization and the tendency to interrupt during conversations.
Sometimes people with ADHD display hyperactive behaviors, like fidgeting, squirminess, restlessness, climbing on things, and restless sleep.
Are you done yet? I don't climb on things, and I want to talk about me. When are we going to talk about me?
Oh, and also inattention, manifested as being easily distracted, zoning out, and difficulty listening.
What?
Okay, Timothy, it's time for you to talk about yourself now.
Oh, goody. Well, like I was saying, nobody thinks like I do. Not one other person in the world. See, like, everyone else is all caught up in getting good grades and gossiping and getting a girlfriend, but, not me. I've got bigger, more important things to think about. I mean, like, who cares about getting a meaningless A on a math test when you know that you could change the world? You could do something meaningful for humanity if you do something useful with your mind instead of wasting it on... Okay, let me try to put it differently. See, to me, it's not that I can't pay attention, even though at this point I probably couldn't if I tried. It's just that I don't see any point in doing so. Like, when people talk to me, they never have anything important to say. And really, when they talk to other people, they don't either. It's just, they spend their whole lives in their little circles and cliques gossiping about who's dating who, and one day it'll be about weddings, and after that, funerals. And that's just, it's not something I'm sorry to miss out on. I don't care that I don't have any friends. They don't matter. None of this matters. And after a lifetime of thinking, I finally realized that the only thing that matters to any one person is their self. And I can only think of one other person who even comes close to understanding that. He's the one who didn't pity me or think of me incapable of taking care of myself. He's the person who looked past my disorder and saw me as a person and not a freak. I don't know, I might otherwise be wallowing around in self-pity right now, and I am really grateful to him for that. Thanks, Dad. Thank you for opening my eyes and showing me that I am the only person who matters to this world. It's my world that nobody else can see, because not one other person thinks like I do. I'm perfectly content with that.
The human brain often refuses to accept that which it determines to be pointless or useless information. Pick up a textbook at any high school and open it to any page, and you'll see some irrelevant, outdated, and uninteresting facts and figures and symbols and stories.
Look inside any high school classroom in America today, and you're likely to see students looking a little, well, like this. When pointless or useless information comes our way, our brain goes, sorry, no thank you, and ignores it. And then you get this.
Coloring in the countries in Africa.
Identifying and circling verbs.
Watching overwrought health videos with bad acting and really bad hair.
And stuffing U.S. state capitals into our short-term memory may be important to teachers and school districts and for some standardized tests. But Timothy's brain isn't buying it.
I don't want to hear you say that I have a learning disorder. Don't say that. I have a learning difference. And I don't have attention deficit disorder either. I have an interest deficit disorder, and I don't have problems with hyperactivity. What I have is enough creativity and energy to change the world.
not all people find such strength in their disorders. Samantha sometimes obsesses about keeping things super clean and orderly and perfect, and sometimes has problems with compulsive behaviors like feeling afraid to step on cracks on the ground. People with these behaviors are often given a diagnosis of OCD, which stands for obsessive-compulsive disorder.
People diagnosed with OCD commonly experience intrusive and repetitive thoughts that lead to compulsive behaviors that the person feels driven to perform according to rigid rules in an effort to prevent some imagined dreaded event.
Samantha is discovering with the help of her therapist that while she certainly uses these OCD behaviors, that her disorder might indeed be separate from her. Samantha is not OCD. Samantha has a problem with obsessive and compulsive behaviors. Let's listen as Samantha talks to her OCD.
Why are you here? Just go away. I listen to you, but I don't understand you. Just stop confusing me. Stop ruining my life. I have so much I could do, so many things I could become, and then you tell me these things and you make me believe. Should I believe you? I count over and over again the tiles on the floor until I'm sure. I count over and over again the stripes on my pillow before I go to sleep. I can never fall asleep. I'm never satisfied with the number because I don't know. Was I right? Was I wrong? I don't trust myself. I don't trust who I am. You made me this way. Why do you make me do these things? I mean, I think I've always been a pretty good person. What do you want? Look at me. I am trying. I'm trying, and I'm tired, and I'm getting nowhere. At least I think I'm trying. Sometimes I feel like I just can't talk. I can't breathe. I just want to pull my hair out and crawl inside an invisible hole. Something isn't right. Something is wrong. Anything, the littlest thing. But no, not to me. To me, it's the biggest thing, and it takes me over. Am I blaming you for all my problems? I mean, if it weren't for you, I guess I wouldn't be who I am. You've taught me things, and I am grateful for that. If I could choose, I actually don't really know if I would get rid of you, but then again, I can't choose, so I don't really know that for sure. If I listen, you lead me, and I almost always listen. Remember yesterday at school when I was walking down the hall with my friend Jimmy? We've been friends for years. To me, he's more than just a friend, but that's always been my secret. We were coming from Spanish late for our next class, and we thought we'd take a new route down a hallway we thought would be quicker. It was you who stopped me. Only you. The floor so scary yet so simple. The cracks so close together and the pieces all separated so small, I froze. I stood there like a fool and lied. I told Jimmy I had to go to the bathroom and that he should go ahead without me, but he knew better. He told me he'd wait for me, and not really knowing what to do, I went to the bathroom, came back, and again just stood there like some kind of creature from another planet. My eyes were planted on that floor. Jimmy stared at me and asked what was wrong. I told him I couldn't tell him. I didn't go to my class that day. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. I was there, and Jimmy was there. You, OCD, was there. What could be worse? Just listen to me for once. I want you to let yourself be controlled by me. Let me control you. Then again, if you didn't control me, I guess my OCD would be gone. I mean, that's what you are, aren't you? A voice in my head that controls me? I mean, would I still do well in school? Would I still have friends? Maybe my friends only like me because of my OCD. But still, what would that be like to live free of all of this? Like normal people, I wouldn't have to bring 5 pencils to school every day just because my eraser runs out so fast. I wouldn't be late for everything, making it all perfect before I leave. I wouldn't have to count over and over and over and over and over again until I know. Or maybe even still not know. But all of these things that you do to me, what are they? I really want to know. Every detail comes out even if I don't want it to. I can't help myself. Everything needs to be known. Everything. And no one understands. They may think they do, but only you and I know. People don't even see it. They don't even realize I have OCD unless I tell them, and even then they don't see it. They don't see that it's my OCD talking and not me. Or is it me? You're part of me, aren't you? You're my best friend and my worst enemy. And you never, ever go away. And now I'm realizing you never will.
Scientists have vigorous debates about how people like Samantha acquire certain mental disorders. Experts in the field argue and fight and read and write. We don't know everything, but we're pretty sure that most disorders, like Samantha's OCD and Timothy's ADHD, are complex mixtures of genetics.
Like what our parents pass down to us via their biological makeup.
And one's experiences and environment.
Like what has or has not happened to us, what we've chosen to do, and what we've been taught.
It's the nature versus nurture debate. It's been around in one form or another since the beginning of time.
But we know that there's something about the teenage brain that presents teenagers with some unique challenges.
We know the human brain goes through 2 major growth spurts during life. The first growth spurt of the brain occurs from when you're born to about your 4th birthday. The second growth spurt of the brain occurs during the teenage years.
In recent decades, new technology has enabled scientists to peer inside living, working brains without damaging them. Instead of hauling a big, expensive MRI machine in here, we thought we'd just use ourselves, the actors, to give you a short glimpse into the adolescent brain.
I'm the adolescent prefrontal cortex. At least, I think I'm the prefrontal cortex. Was I right?
I am the adolescent hypothalamus. Love you.
I am the adolescent amygdala, damn it! Stop!
I live very close to the limbic system, where these guys live. I'm the front part of the brain that allows you to imagine and think about consequences. Oh, sorry, that was stupid. And I plan the best and safest course of action for your life. I'm also the location of self-control, learning from your mistakes, thinking before you act, and short and long-term planning.
Ma'am, your credit card statement, $86,000.
Oops, I didn't see that coming. I'm not doing my job very well. We'll talk about why that is later. Maybe. I hope. Can we?
I am the adolescent hypothalamus. I play a key role in triggering the raging hormones that have long been associated with adolescence. I am also involved in sexual orientation, sex drive, and sexual behavior.
I am a small almond-shaped collection of brain cells that controls fear and anger in the teenage brain. So what are you going to do about it? When someone surprises you by jumping out from behind a corner, I am the one who governs your immediate response, which is usually pushed out fear. I am also responsible for how pissed off you feel when your parents won't let you go to Mexico with your friends on spring break. Bastards.
Amygdala and I live in the exciting part of the brain called the limbic system, which supports a variety of functions, including emotion, love, behavior, and long-term memory.
All three of us are pretty damn exhausted during the teenage years, so give us a break. Because the teenage brain is going through so many rapid changes, there is heightened activity in the limbic system where hypothalamus and I live. This heightened limbic activity means increased emotional activity. The limbic system is pretty much on fire in the teenage brain, and this is a big part of the reason why things in your lives can feel so dramatic. And it gets freaking hot up here.
Especially when you get a D on a test.
Or your parents won't let you stay out as late as you like, so you cannot make the love.
Or a friend gives you a dirty look.
We in the limbic system flare up. It can literally feel to you like the end of the world. Poor child.
And that's where I can trip you up a bit. I'm going to try to get through this without making a mistake or spontaneously combusting. Remember, here in the prefrontal cortex, I help you think about the consequences of your choices and having self-control over your impulses. Except, during the teenage years, I don't do a very good job. I'm sorry. It's just that I'm going through so many changes. There are layers and layers of brain matter being shredded off me while you're living as a teenager. I'm trying my best to mature from a child's brain into an adult's brain, but it takes a while, and you'll make plenty of mistakes while I'm transitioning. As I mature, you'll notice big changes in your thinking, mainly in areas of judgment and planning and self-control. I hate to break it to everyone, but I'm usually not completely whole and filled in until around the age of 23. Until then, good luck and Godspeed. I think I just peed my pants.
Hormonal changes occurring in me during the teenage years can cause emotions to feel much bigger than would usually fit the situation. It's why having a problem with a friend or a lover can feel like the end of the world, and why teenagers tend to fall in love very quickly and feel such despair when breaking up with a lover. It's beautiful.
Big decisions like going out for the swim team or committing to a college can feel huge and piss you off. Stress like when you're taking finals at times can feel overwhelming, and relationships of all kinds can feel extremely intense. So take no prisoners and don't take anyone's shit.
Of course, all the hormonal changes going on inside me spur sexual development, and this can become very preoccupying to teenagers and young adults. This heightened limbic activity also accounts for the preoccupation many teens have with dating, making love, falling in love, and the desire to attach to their peers, especially lovers.
During these periods of growth, the brain is very vulnerable to training. It will literally hardwire whatever it's exposed to on a regular basis during the growth spurt. So what you do as a teenager has an impact on your brain, and it sticks.
Prefrontal cortex over here is so dizzy and confused that you might impulsively do drugs, drink alcohol, or smoke cigarettes. Because of the adolescent's brain sensitivity, the effects of drugs and alcohol on the teenage brain is fast and severe.
All of this stuff can damage your brain. Let me repeat that. All of this stuff can damage your brain.
The negative effects of these chemicals can damage a developing brain permanently. Drugs and alcohol can be a serious problem for anyone, but for adolescents, they can become a serious problem forever.
So the good news is that we are mostly in control of how much our brain develops. It's pretty much based on our choices.
The bad news is that you have me guiding you. So even though I'll be freaking out up here, just try and make good choices, okay?
This is Miles. Miles sometimes isn't very nice to his brain.
My first time was in 9th grade. Not having sex, if that's what you're thinking. Get your mind out of the gutter. If you're curious, though, at the time I was still a virgin. Nah, I was talking about it was the first time I tried weed. Back then it wasn't bad like it is now. I don't know, I'd smoke it once a month at parties. Never at home. My parents grew up in the 60s. They know what pot smells like. I'm not stupid. Yeah. Like I said, back then it wasn't bad. I mean, we'd smoke occasionally at parties. We'd get high and it'd be sweet. See, I liked being funny when everyone else is high because usually my jokes suck. But when I'm high and everyone else is high, everything's hilarious. Even me. Wasn't till about junior year that pot really fucked me up. See, there are those 2 years of glory, but then 1 week it was all over. Months before I'd sneak some pot home just in case I got the urge, and the urge came. One day during December, my dog, Frank, keeled over and died. Stupid, dead dog got me really fucking upset. If it was possible to OD on pot, I would have that week. I don't think it was Frank's fault, though. It was my fault. My sad, crying, girly fault. I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. Ever since that week, I can't go one day without lighting up a joint. And it's not cheap either. I mean, it's not like Coke expensive or anything, but it's not cheap. My therapist has all these ideas about me. It's my development. It's my teenage brain. I don't know. It's my depression. It's anxiety. Stop smoking, Miles. She is so annoying. She doesn't get it. I mean, okay, like sometimes she might, and I guess I could give her credit for that, but mostly she doesn't. I miss my dead dog, Frank. Shit, I'm probably gonna give myself lung cancer from smoking so much. They say that I'm killing my brain with all this smoke. Sometimes I care about that. Mostly I don't. My parents say that they'll send me to rehab for my birthday this year if I don't shape up. I don't know, I'll try, I guess. Suppose for my 18th birthday, I'd rather get a new iPod.
Dopamine is the chemical in the brain involved in reward and pleasure. The THC in pot unnaturally increases the levels of dopamine in the brain and can negatively affect how the brain makes its own dopamine.
This unnatural increase of dopamine in the brain can lead to dependence or addiction to marijuana and may lead to side effects including short-term memory loss,
Problems with concentration,
decreased motivation for life,
and a lack of coordination.
In Miles's case, and like many teenagers and adults like him, he smokes marijuana in an effort to make his painful emotions go away. Some of us who have trouble tolerating anxiety and stress and sadness may prefer to just numb out by using drugs like marijuana. It's our way to escape our true feelings and our true selves.
Others of us are already so numb, we'll hurt ourselves just to feel something.
This is Colleen.
I've mastered the art of deception. It's not that I lie exactly. I just don't tell anyone the whole truth. I don't have close friends, and I don't talk about myself much. I'm also very careful about staying away from stereotypes, like the emo kid or the goth kid, you know? Not looking a certain way, acting and dressing very normal. I guess you're probably wondering what my big secret is by now. So, I'll show you, since it's easier than telling you. See? No one sees that part of my arm ever. So, just consider yourselves lucky, I guess. And when I say that no one sees that part of my arm, I really mean it. I always wear long sleeves, and I talk about being cold so it won't seem weird that I'm always wearing a sweatshirt. And also, I only do it on my left arm. Because I'm right-handed, and sometimes I would have to roll up my sleeve to write or something, in which case the scars would be visible. My therapist told me I have this thing called generalized anxiety disorder. I'm still not really sure what that means. I guess it means that I worry a lot, and I'm tense. And that is pretty true. I get really anxious sometimes, even about little things, like homework or whether someone's mad at me or not, and I just freeze up. It's like I can't even move. I guess that when I cut myself, it just releases some of that tension. But I really can't even tell you why I cut. I think it has something to do with control. Maybe the other parts of life are unpredictable and you never really know what's going to happen next. Life is always spiraling out of control, and this is one thing that's concrete and definite. This is a part of my life that no one else decides or controls. It's all me. And it doesn't even really hurt that much. But then again, it's not like I'm trying to make myself bleed as much as possible or anything. Just enough to feel something and to see it and to be reminded that I'm alive. Sometimes I just feel so numb, emotionless, not human, not feeling anything, just here. That sounds pretty stupid, doesn't it? I'm sure there are much better ways of realizing I'm alive, but maybe I haven't found them yet. Or maybe I'm not even interested. Who knows? Not me, that's for sure.
Self-harm in the United States goes back to about the 1950s and probably before. Studies suggest that some 2 to 3 million Americans purposefully injure themselves.
While there are many forms of self-injury, cutting, as with Colleen's case, is most common. Some experts believe that self-injury is a way of gaining control over the body.
You may not hear a whole lot about people cutting because it can be an act of guilt and shame. Like Colleen, many people who cut seek to keep their cutting and their scars a secret, hence the long sleeves and social isolation.
Hey girl, hey.
Oh my god, Dan.
What's going on?
Did you hear that Tara is a cutter?
No effing way.
Her parents are going through this divorce, and like her dad was totally screwing his neighbor or something. And Tara's been so desperate for love and attention that she's been cutting herself on her wrists. Isn't that ridiculous?
Ridiculous.
And like, she's not even doing it to die or anything. Like, she's not suicidal or anything, because that would be like serious and stuff. She's just doing it for attention. Pathetic, huh?
Pathetic.
Some of us do self-harm for attention. You may have heard people minimizing the severity of those who cut for attention. Some people even ridicule us for cutting for attention, as if cutting is more for sport than a way to deal with our pain.
Those of us who cut to gain attention are going to extreme lengths to get someone to notice us.
We are people who are in pain. Like all human beings, we who cut in an effort to be noticed are seeking love from other people. It's an act of desperation. We will do almost anything to receive love from someone.
While there are more useful, respectful ways of getting someone's attention, all who self-injure are in deep emotional pain, and compassion is usually a helpful way for us to respond.
There is another way many of us are harming ourselves. Even though the goal may not be self-injury, people with so-called disordered eating are harming their bodies in profound ways.
Some eating disorders include anorexia nervosa, meaning a lack of desire to eat, and its cousin bulimia, the binge-purge syndrome. Both are dangerous behaviors that can lead to emaciation, loss of menstruation, decrease in bone density, severe tooth decay, drops in blood pressure, anemia, and cardiac arrhythmias. Approximately 15% of those with eating disorders die due to eating disorder complications, and eating disorders can affect both men and women.
In anorexia, body image becomes increasingly distorted. People with anorexia, like Casey, tend to describe feeling fatter and fatter as their weight decreases. While some people with eating disorders simply restrict food intake, others use vomiting, laxatives, or excessive exercise to purge whatever they have eaten.
Let's see. For breakfast today, I had an apple. Okay, so I know I should have gotten a couple of breads in, but I was running late. Then for my AM snack, I had a banana. For lunch, I had a yogurt parfait with fruit and granola. That's all I've had. Okay, so I know it's a lot of fruit, but I had the yogurt and that's a half a protein, right? Okay, so now I just have 2 snacks and a meal to get. Oh God. 8 breads, 4 fats, protein and a half, 2 vegetables, and a dessert. This must be a joke. No normal person has a dessert every day. And those carbs? I've been seeing my dietitian for 6 weeks now, and she has yet to lower my meal plan. No eating disorder patient follows their meal plan anyway. Maybe if I didn't have to have 8 frickin' breads, I could do it. Seriously, this is just scary. Every time I eat anything other than a fruit or vegetable, I just want to cry. I've been beating myself up for that stupid parfait all day. I want my life back. You know, it's funny because I don't even really remember my life before my eating disorder. I used to try to think of the happy little girl I supposedly was. I'm not convinced I was all that happy. Well, it's just, I can never really remember a time that I was actually happy with who I was. I can always be smarter. I can always be funnier. I can always be thinner. Yep. And then came Ed. Good ol' Ed. All these abbreviations make me want to laugh. They're like little secrets within our clan. Want to hear my favorite? Pro Anna. It sounds so non-threatening, and yet it's a world full of websites designed to promote the thing that's killing me. The last site I went on had a girl's food log for the past week. All week, she ate nothing but carrots. Carrot sticks, carrot juice, carrot soup. I mean, what the hell is carrot soup? Whatever. It doesn't even matter. I just like looking at these pages, reading these stories, so I can keep tabs on the rest of the eating disorder world. It helps me make sure I'm doing things right. Or right as defined by my eating disorder, I suppose.
The prevalence of eating disorders in this country is paradoxical. At a time when obesity is at epidemic levels, we have a parallel epidemic of anorexia nervosa and bulimia.
These epidemics mirror our American cultural confusion about food. TV commercials encourage us to supersize our portions and have fun shoving high-calorie junk food into our faces as we simultaneously glorify unhealthy and unrealistic thinness.
We entice kids to eat until they're stuffed and then tell them they're ugly if they're not supermodel thin.
It's no wonder many Americans get stuck in one extreme or another, and that so many teens suffer from disordered eating.
And America, while being the richest country in the world, is also the country with the highest number and percentage of people with anorexia and bulimia. It's why anorexia is sometimes called a disease of plenty.
But still, I can't fight the disappointment every time food crosses my lips, or the satisfaction in knowing I've resisted it. It's such a vicious cycle, but I find gratification with every single grumble of my stomach. I feel powerful, I guess, even though it's killing me. And the worst part is that I know that it's killing me. And I stick with it. Because I need it. We've covered ODD, ADHD, OCD, and eating disorders, all diagnosable mental disorders with which many of us cope.
Homosexuality used to be a diagnosable disorder in the early DSMs, but in 1987, homosexuality, for a whole host of reasons, was officially taken out of the good old DSM. Thank God.
Those who self-define as a sexual orientation other than heterosexual face a frightening and sometimes dangerous world filled with misunderstandings.
Non-heterosexual persons, whom we'll call queer persons, no longer have a disordered sexuality according to the DSM, but we still live in a world where the majority of people are heterosexual. Queer persons are in the minority.
So while queer persons still cannot legally get married in most of the United States, they are no longer seen as sick by at least most of the medical community.
But this does not mean that queer persons are immune from alphabet soup-like labels.
The following letters are representative of the gay community. The L stands for lesbian. The G stands for gay.
B for bisexual and T for transgender.
The first Q is for people who identify themselves as queer. The second Q is reserved for those who are in a period of questioning. And the I, persons who are intersexed. While groups represented on this queer spectrum have a variety of differences and idiosyncrasies, the one thing they have in common is that they are people who belong to a stigmatized and oppressed sexual identity.
Teenagers who self-define as one of these identities typically have some unique issues to face. Not only do they have all the aforementioned teenage stress and anxieties, but add on to that a stigmatized and oppressed sexual identity, and queer youth can suffer deep interpersonal hardships and emotional despair.
Not all queer teenagers are in such despair. The latest research shows that many queer teenagers are quite healthy and more artistic, athletic, and creative than teenagers who are straight. Perhaps being so radically different can lead to strengths.
Some teenagers who are queer seem to truly enjoy their radical difference. They're living in what we call the pride stage.
You should see my girlfriend. She is really hot.
Meet Brittany.
I have a picture of my girlfriend, but it's hanging in my locker. That's too bad. Shall I go as far as to say she's a sex demon? No, I won't. There are adults here. But she is a sex demon. Which is good, I guess, since I'm a big frickin' lesbian, if you haven't noticed already.
Brittany met her girlfriend Liz at District 202, which is a community center for queer youth.
My parents don't like Liz. They didn't like Beth or Elizabeth either. They never liked my girlfriends. Well, that's not quite it. I've never introduced them to each other, so I really don't know. But anyways, back to my girlfriend and her frickin' delicious self. I love making out with her in the hall at school to freak out all the jocks. My mother never taught me humility, but hell, she never taught me how to be straight either. She tried, though. But back to my girlfriend. Liz's long curly hair smells so good you wouldn't believe it. She loves shaking it around while we kiss, and all those preppy jocks stop and stare and gawk. It's amazing. Sometimes I do feel sad my parents hate me, but I hate them too, so I guess we're even. My grandma digs me though. She's cool. Every Sunday after church, I go over to her place and we watch football together. We cheer for different teams. It's kind of weird. She makes quesadillas, and I eat them. For the most part, it's cool being a lesbian. I mean, guys suck. They're always so immature and feeling each other's muscles. Girls can be real bitches, though, but they're better kissers, at least in my opinion. I kissed a guy once, so I know. It sucked. Being a lesbian, you can also get away with wearing Birkenstocks. That doesn't suck. Birkenstocks are sweet. Well, next time I'll bring a picture of my girlfriend. Even if we're broken up by then, she's just that hot.
Not all queer youth are open and as proud as Brittany. Research tells us that queer youth, because of their stigmatized sexual identity, have a higher likelihood of suffering from depression and anxiety than youth who are straight.
Queer youth are also more likely to become homeless than straight youth, due mostly to a lack of acceptance from parents.
Queer youth are more likely to commit suicide than straight youth and are more likely to abuse mind-altering chemicals.
Not all queer youth are as open and as proud as Brittany. Consider True Story of Lawrence King.
Larry would show up most days at school decked out in women's accessories. On some days, he would slick up his curly hair in a prince-like bouffant. Sometimes he'd paint his fingernails hot pink and dab glitter or white foundation on his cheeks.
He wore makeup better than I did,
Says Marissa Moreno, 13, one of his classmates. He bought a pair of stilettos at Target, and he couldn't have been prouder if he had on a varsity football jersey. He thought nothing of chasing boys around the school in those stilettos, teetering as he ran.
But on the morning of February 12th, Larry left his glitter and his heels at home. He came to school dressed like any other boy. Tennis shoes, baggy pants, and a loose sweater over a collared shirt. He seemed unhappy about something. He hadn't slept much the night before, and he told one school employee that he threw up his breakfast that morning, which he sometimes did because he obsessed over his weight. But this was different. One student noticed that as Larry walked across the quad, he kept looking back nervously over his shoulder before he slipped into his first period English class.
The teacher, Mrs. Boldrin, told the students to collect their belongings and then march them to a nearby computer lab so they could type out their papers on World War II. Larry found a seat in the middle of the room. Behind him, Brandon McInerney pulled up a chair. Brandon, 14, wasn't working on his paper because he told Mrs. Boldrin he'd finished it. Instead, he opened a history book and started to read. Or at least he pretended to.
He kept looking over at Larry.
Says a student who was in the class that morning.
He'd look at the book and then look at Larry and then at the book and then at Larry.
At 8:30 a.m., a half hour into class, Brandon quietly stood up. Then, without anyone's noticing, he removed a handgun that he had somehow sneaked to school, aimed it at Larry's head, and fired a single shot. Mrs. Boldrin, who was across the room looking at another student's work, spun around.
Brandon, what the hell are you doing?
She screamed. Brandon fired at Larry a second time, tossed the gun on the ground, and calmly walked through the classroom door. Police arrested him within 7 minutes a few blocks from school. Brandon later admitted that he shot Larry in large part due to Larry's being queer and dressing like a girl. Larry died 2 days later of brain injuries.
Larry's family decided to donate his organs.
The following day, February 14th, doctors harvested his pancreas, liver, lungs, and the most important organ of all, which now beats inside the chest of a 10-year-old girl.
On Valentine's Day, Larry King gave away his heart, but not in the way he thought he would.
Not all queer youth can afford to be as open and as proud.
We hear adults doing a lot of complaining about us teenagers. We're too lazy, too hyper, too fat, too skinny, too violent. And after just hearing the story of Larry's murder, maybe teenagers do have problems with violence. What we're wondering, where did we learn these behaviors? Whom are our role models? From where are the guns coming? Really, we're wondering, where or to whom should the blame for teenagers' poor choices fall?
I got sent to the guidance counselor today. Apparently, she thinks I have a conduct disorder and I have aggressive behavior and I'm not cooperative. Big deal. Cooperate? Yeah, I don't think so. Not when it means that I have to sit in a chair for 6 hours a day and do nothing. That's ridiculous.
This is Joshua. His diagnosis of conduct disorder in our society usually translates to bad kid or menace to society. It basically means he's broken a bunch of laws.
Yeah, if crabby old people want me to do what they want, they need to find a better way. I don't have time to sit in an office after school and listen to some stupid psychobabble bitch tell me I'm not on the right track. As far as I'm concerned, I'm doing just fine. Just because I'm not some A-plus student who sucks up to every teacher in the school doesn't mean I need rehab. Seriously, these people need to get a life. The world is a system. You do well in high school so you can get into a good college, and you do well in college so you can get a good job, and then you work hard for a promotion, and I'm not going to waste my time with that when I know I would never make it anyway. It just pisses me off how they all get so worked up about things. I mean, when I finally got caught stealing from the gas station after like the 98th time the police called, my house and everything, not that anyone was there to answer. My dad was at the bar and my mom was asleep. And they wouldn't have time to chit-chat with the cops. The last time me and my parents were together was when I was conceived. It's just the fact that they all got so worked up about it. They were all, watch your attitude or you'll end up in juvenile detention, and this is a chance for you to get your priorities straight, son. What a joke. No one actually cares what I'm getting into. They just want to save their own ass. And that is actually what the whole world is, and I'm too fed up with it to pretend I care. Just because I have more common sense than the rest of the so-called civilized world doesn't mean that I should have to put up with all of this shit. Now, if you excuse me, I got better places to be.
Teenagers like Joshua are hurting. They make choices in an attempt to deal with their pain, and clearly these choices are not helping.
Joshua makes his own choices. We all make our own choices. No matter what has happened to us, no matter which behaviors we've learned, and no matter what genes we've inherited, we are responsible for our actions and ultimately the course of our lives. This means we're in control of our lives for better or for worse.
Some choices made by teens are useful and inspiring and bring hope to our world. Other choices made by teens like Joshua can really mess things up for a whole bunch of people in their lives, including themselves.
Choices like with our friendships. We need friends, and we like friends, but friends can really hurt each other.
Mother Teresa was once quoted saying, "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other." That is, we're all connected. When there's disharmony between friends, there's often disharmony within us as individuals. We don't like being in conflict with people. It isn't how we were made.
Conflicts with people and conflicts within ourselves can contribute to the acquisition of that mean disorder we call depression.
I don't really remember how Vanessa and I became friends. It just sort of happened. 6th grade. That was the year 30 new kids infiltrated our school, when couples started, and when Vanessa and I became friends. And it wasn't over time or anything, no. The first day, we were best friends. It's weird to think about how everything has changed so much since then, since the days when swearing wasn't commonplace and everyone was pretty much friends with everyone else. Lately, though, things have changed. I mean, Vanessa and I have always been super close, but lately she doesn't want to talk to me. Ever since I brought Monica with us to a movie, Vanessa has been steering clear of me. I mean, it might just be because I insulted her shoes last week. I know I would be pissed if someone told me my brand new $150 shoes look like dog poop smeared on my grandmother's shoes. I don't know, though. I apologize about 1,000,000 times, but Vanessa isn't hearing any of it. She just starts whispering to Monica, who will giggle in that little way of hers, and they just go skipping off into the sunset, leaving me in the dust. I just don't know anymore. Now that Vanessa and I aren't friends anymore, I can see a lot of things about her that I never noticed before. For starters, she's always surrounded by her posse, whose sole purpose is to laugh at her jokes and gossip with her and make her look good. It's so weird now, being on the outside. I can see things I never saw before about them, like how mean they are to everyone. I'm their current target in the long string of many. Every time I try to strike up a friendly conversation with Vanessa, eventually she and Monica will just laugh at some inside joke of theirs. And I've tried asking them what's so funny, but Vanessa just says, "You weren't there, you wouldn't understand," in this really snooty voice. It's also been stated that I no longer count when it comes to conversations about us or we. That's not really a problem. Well, I guess it is a problem. Just one person. I just need one person to talk to. One person who shares my thoughts on anything. It's summer now, and Vanessa and I haven't spoken in months, but it's okay. I've got a job at this ice cream parlor this summer. I think it'll be good for me. A good chance to get out and meet some new people. Who knows? Maybe I'll even make a couple friends.
Depression can hit teens like a nuclear bomb. It can also creep in rather steadily. Medication can help, therapy can help, and exercise and sleep can help.
Being in conflict with people or the absence of contact with people altogether can stimulate depression. But the lovely paradox of depression is that sometimes the best Most effective treatment for depression is encouraging relationships.
People can be a part of why we need the healing. And people can also be paramount to our healing.
Some of us seek healthy intimacy from other people and are better for it.
And some of us seek artificial intimacy from a bottle.
I don't even have a best friend. I see all of these girls at school with their little cliques. And then there's me, little miss, I'm on top of everything. That's what they call me. If only they knew. Last Sunday, I woke up in a bathroom I didn't even recognize. There was vomit in the toilet from the night before. I can only assume it was mine. I walked out, and there was Craig sitting on the couch like nothing had even happened. I left without saying a word, and the rest of the day, I was puking. I blamed it on the hangover, but then I kept puking. It's been all week, so it can't be the hangover, and it didn't feel like the flu. Oh God, what if I'm pregnant? What am I going to do if I'm pregnant? My parents would kill me. Oh my God, what if it's Jason's or that kid from Anthony's the night before or Justin? How the hell did I get like this? And the worst part is, I have no one to tell about it. I don't even have a best friend.
It is said in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that alcohol becomes the alcoholic's best friend. No one else matters. Anyone else can be betrayed for the sake of alcohol.
Alcohol abuse is a reality among teens.
In many cases, we have difficulty feeling connected to others and feeling loved, and alcohol can be used as a substitute for this desired intimacy.
Intoxication can be an escape from the internal pain many of us feel.
Ask me anything about Pink Floyd.
Daniel sometimes uses alcohol to escape the slings and arrows of life.
I'm serious. I'm 17, you're 46, but in 60 seconds, I can recite every Pink Floyd song in alphabetical order.
But as of late, his efforts to cope have been a bit more severe.
I'm serious. I know most of the lyrics to most of their songs, too. My dad died a year, 8 months, and 13 days ago. Shotgun to the heart. That's right. The man shot a gun into his own heart. He got in his beloved pickup truck, cracked open a Budweiser, and shot himself in his own garage. I was the one who found him. Huh. You know, the last time I heard that Pink Floyd song, Wish You Were Here, it's the night I got these scars.
Each year in the U.S., thousands of teens commit suicide.
My dad was the one who got me into Pink Floyd. He knew this guy, Jody, a sound engineer, who worked on the Pink Floyd album, Wish You Were Here. So Sid Barrett was the lead singer of the band at the time, but they decided to record this one without him because he got into acid and all this shit. But Jody says that Sid decides to show up one day unannounced with no hair on his head, no eyebrows, and was so fat that most of the band didn't even recognize him. Jody said that Sid was like crazy and he was jumping up and down and brushing his teeth while the band was recording. Some of them cried, I guess.
Suicide is the third leading cause of death for 15 to 24-year-olds.
Well, me and Ashley had just broken up. Well, she was cheating on me, and breaking up is usually what follows. I was feeling pretty depressed. Well, I have depression. I suffer from depression. So does my mom, and so did my dad. So, I did what I usually do when I'm feeling down. I cracked open a 6-pack of Budweiser and turned on some Pink Floyd.
People who are suicidal have lost hope in their world, their relationships, and themselves.
See, it's different where I live. You all got your vegan Barack Obama co-ops with your 16 different kinds of milk, and I ain't talking 16 brands. You got cow milk and soy milk and wheatgrass milk and peanut milk made in peanut-free factories. You got wheatgrass vending machines and those sons of bitches. No, where I live, we got one kind of milk. We got one case of it in the whole store, and the place where you all have your many milk assortments, yeah, we got beer. I've been drinking beer since I was about 13. My dad would come home from work and crack open a few. He was a disciplined, hard-working man. He's my hero.
Mix depression with intoxication and broken relationships, and you have people who are just about ready to say goodbye to this world.
Oh, so the scars. Well, I'm sitting in my dad's pickup truck, and Ashley just told me she was banging my cousin. Not joking. And I cracked open a beer, and I turned on some Pink Floyd. And I grabbed my dad's shotgun, the one with the long-ass barrel. Hold it up. Point it right about there. And I fired that bitch right into my heart. BAM! Only didn't go into my heart. Missed my heart by about 2 millimeters and destroyed my left lung. The doctors did this operation on me called a pulmonectomy. Yeah, my left lung is gone. And I got these scars. And I'm here now. And it's all right. I think it's because God wants me to be here. He told me it wasn't my time yet. God's giving me a second chance, so see what I do with it.
There is some hope in Daniel's story.
He's not completely cured of his despair and hopelessness, and likely never will be. And he'll always have his scars. But he seems to be growing.
He seems to be working.
He seems to be doing the best he can with what he has right now.
We get better.
We get better slowly.
We get better painfully.
But we get better.
There's hope for Daniel. And there's hope for all of us, perhaps.
A quote from Socrates from the 5th century BCE. Sounds like when it comes to adults' view of teenagers, some things never change.
But maybe Socrates and all other adults have a point. As we've seen, there is something chaotic, disordered about the teenage years. Our bodies are going through rapid physical changes. We're changing in both the intensity and volatility of our emotions. We're shifting our main life influence from our parents to our peers, and we're searching for our identity, our place in this world. So, sure, our lives may be a bit chaotic. What else would you expect given the circumstances?
Our teenage years are chaotic and certainly can cause chaos in the lives of people who surround us.
I don't know much about chaos theory, but I do know that it has to do with there being order and even great beauty in what looks like total chaos. And if we look closely enough at the randomness around us, patterns will start to emerge.
The universe is apparently fundamentally disordered, but chaos theory is really about finding the underlying order in the apparently random data.
So, maybe chaos isn't so bad.
Maybe teenagers aren't so bad.
Maybe teenagers, like the patterns emerging in our universe's randomness, are uniquely complex. We have names.
We have a past.
We have dreams.
We have a future.
We are people with depth that transcends all labels and any diagnosis.
We are passionate.
We love our friends.
We are energetic.
We are changing.
We are in flux.
We are moving.
We feel things deeply.
We laugh hard.
We cry hard.
We play hard.
We dance.
We risk.
We dare.
We try.
We test.
We disorder your lives.
We disorder the status quo.
We disorder your world.
And we don't think that's so bad.